Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS current affair analysis for 8th July 2020, and these are the articles that we'll be dealing today. The first article for the day is taken from the Live Mint and it is titled Bihar is now a fertility outlier. So before getting into the specifics of this article, let us try to understand certain basic information regarding demographics. Demographics is the study of population of a particular geography. So it is in this context you have to understand a term called total fertility rate. So what is this total fertility rate? Generally in policy making, a reproductive age of a woman is taken somewhere between 15 to 49 years. So this is called the reproductive age of women. So this total fertility rate indicates the average number of children expected to be born to a woman during a reproductive age that is between 15 to 49 years. So there is another term that you have to understand, that is replacement level. Now what is this replacement level? Replacement level is the number of children needed to replace the parents, that is the number of children required to exactly replace one generation after the another. So this is after accounting for fatalities, skewed sex ratio, infant mortality. All these factors will be considered and then this number will be arrived at. So India's total fertility rate is declining. That is the key trend we have to understand. So now the fertility rate is 2.2 per women. So this fertility rate is pretty near to the replacement level. In India, the replacement level is calculated to be at 2.1 according to the latest government data. The government's sample registration system, or SRS, is generally done to understand these trends. So TFR for India declined to 2.2 in 2017 after being stable at 2.3 between 2013 to 2016. So the 2017 figure is just 10 basis points behind the replacement level of 2.1. This has been the trend till now. So some more key points that you have to understand is the total fertility rate has more than halved in both urban and rural areas since 1971. So this was considered to be a landmark year because population back then was booming. Fertility rate back then was around 4.1. In rural areas also, the total fertility rate has fallen from 5.4 to 2.4 in the same period. So it is in this context we have to understand that northern states, the population is still high. If you take a look at the migration patterns, the reason why it is very difficult for creation of jobs in these geographies is because of the high population, whether it is UP, whether it is Bihar or Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, all these areas have humongous population. Now in contrast, if you take a look at the southern states, all these states have below replacement level fertility, and therefore because of absence of labor, there is migration from northern states to the southern states. So it is this trend that we have to understand. What are the reasons for falling TFR in the southern states and why higher fertility rates are still prevalent in the northern states? One major factor can be attributed to a phenomenon called population momentum. But before we get there, let us try to understand some more basic concepts or basic reasons as to why total fertility rate has been falling in southern states. This is majorly because there is better educational standards available in these areas. We have increased mobility. There is a culture of late marriage and therefore lesser number of kids are born. And because of the education patterns and increased empowerment of women, we have more and more financially independent women, and there is overall prosperity in southern India. This is exactly what is missing in northern India. Even though there are sustained efforts to reduce the population here, we will have to understand this concept of population momentum. So basically, to put it very simply, even if we apply a sudden brake to a car, the car does not come to a screeching halt. This is because there is already certain momentum. This is exactly the phenomenon that you can observe even in northern India. So there is this phenomenon of population momentum because whoever is entering this reproductive age, even if they are producing below fertility level, there is still a population growth. You cannot actually stop the entire population growth to a zero. That is not simply possible. You can slow it down. Even if we slow it down, the population will still grow for a certain period of time. Now, in certain pockets of northern belt, we don't see the kind of education or mobility or a culture where there is late marriage or financially independent women or even overall prosperity. So there is a perception that more and more number of kids will actually help them in their labor, because the only kind of employment they know is manual labor or agriculture. Now this is where we have to understand the link between our profession and the kind of society that resides in a particular geography. If a society is very much dependent on agriculture, there is a requirement of more and more number of people for manual labor. That has been traditionally the basis of Indian joint family system. Now after globalization and after the breakup of families, agriculture has become more and more a avenue for those people who could not find any other source of employment. Because of all these factors, Bihar today is the only Indian state where a woman, as of 2018, because the data given in this article is of 2018. So it is the only state where a woman as of 2018 was likely to have more than 3 children in her lifetime. So among states that have not yet reached replacement fertility, Bihar had also one of the slowest reductions for any states over the last 10 years. So to sum it up, Bihar's population is going to increase for the future as well. Therefore, there should be awareness campaigns about population control and the need for population control. For that to happen, it should be complemented with all the developmental programs. So the initial points where we can start our focus is health and education. Malnourishment is a big problem in our society, and when poor societies, especially in states like Bihar, which have very normal developmental indicators, they will be under severe stress, especially under the present pandemic. So there is also a possibility that more and more number of kids will be born during this phase of coronavirus pandemic, and that will also add to the stress of the state's coffers. So there is a definite need for family planning awareness, and also there should be other allied areas that states need to address, like for example women's health, girls education, and access to contraception. So all these factors we have to understand. That is the reason why Bihar is still a fertility outlier. That is the gist of this article. The second article for the day is taken from the Hindu, and it is titled "More Saber Rattling, More Isolation." This news is about the tussle between Philippines and China with respect to the 9-dash line in the South China Sea. Now what is this 9-dash line? So this 9-dash line is actually the claim of China in South China Sea. So basically they defy the international norms laid down by the UNCLOS, and they say that historically China has claimed sovereignty over this area, which it terms as the 9-dash line, which is in contrast with the norms laid down under UNCLOS. So this will infringe on the rights of other countries to explore and carry out their economic activities, and it will also affect the freedom of navigation in this region. So Philippines invoked the dispute settlement mechanism of UNCLOS in 2013 to test the legality of the China's 9-dash line. In response, the Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague decided that the legal basis for 9-dash line is absent, but China dismissed the judgment as null and void. Now, what is the strategic significance of this area? The South China Sea is important, not just for its littoral countries, but it is also a transit point since medieval times, and it has rich resources of marine organisms like fish, and it is a source of income for all the countries in those areas. It is also a repository of mineral deposits and oil and gas reserves. So because of this reason, every other country in that region like Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, all of them want a stake in this area. But China's unilateral imposition of its authority in this area is affecting the realization of their rights. In the same judgment, China was also accused of environmental damage because land reclamation and construction in this area has damaged the ecosystems of that area. It has also violated its obligation to preserve the ecosystem. Given that there are economic ties with China across the region, it may appear that ASEAN countries are tagging along with China. In reality, there is definitely a lot of discontent amongst these countries. While avoiding military confrontation with China is the option available to many countries in this area because they cannot match the might of Chinese aggression. So they are seeking some sort of a political insurance and strengthening their navies. For example, if you take the case of Vietnam, Vietnam has added many submarines of Russian origin to its navy. Even France, Germany, Netherlands, etc. have supplied formidable stealth ships to Singapore, patrol boats to Brunei Darussalam, and corvettes to Indonesia. So we can say that there is definitely an environment of military escalation in this area. Why should India be concerned about this region? Majorly, it is because South China Sea carries a lot of merchandise from and to India, and it is one of the major sea lane of navigation. It follows that India definitely has a stake in South China Sea, just as China has in the Indian Ocean. Just because India is not a littoral country of South China Sea, it doesn't mean that there is no stake for India. India must definitely continue to pursue its defense diplomacy outreach in this Indo-Pacific region, which also includes South China Sea. So there is an increase in the military training and exercises that are happening in this area. There is also a higher level of engagement and complexity involved in the region now. We have to focus our attention now to the humanitarian and disaster relief activities, share patrolling of the Malacca Straits with the littoral countries. This responsibility cannot be delegated to the countries or the littoral countries of that area. The comprehensive strategic partnership is one more area where we can focus. These partnerships will definitely go a long way in building our relationship with countries like Australia, Japan, which are more and more resisting the hegemony of Chinese aggression in this region. India must also improve its military capability by Tri-Service Andaman and Nicobar Command. And in this context, the Chief of Defence Staff post creation has definitely augmented its capacity. Considering the geostrategic significance of South China Sea and Asia's maritime strategic lifeline, it is an imperative for India to have a strong policy towards China in this region. That is the gist of this article. Thank you.